Hi, everybody. I wanted to give my story, my birth story of having a baby in Ireland. This is my first baby, so I haven't had a child in the States, so I can't completely compare. So when I believed I was pregnant and I took a home pregnancy test, I went to a doctor, and once he confirmed that, all the doctor's visits from there on out were completely free. There were clinics very close to where I was living, so that was great. So I would alternate between going to the doctor, going to the clinics. Again, never paid a penny. I think the only thing I paid for was I got signed out of work early and I had to pay for that certificate, and it was like €30. They were good at the 6-week scan. They were asking a lot of questions about myself and my husband's family history. And because I did say that I had a history of anxiety and depression, that I was put with a midwife that I would meet up with that was a mental health specialist, and she was really fantastic. She was like a counselor to me. I was working at a movie theater at the time as a manager. I had really great support. They would call, they would check up on me. They made sure that, I don't know how to say it, as part of their obligation, I suppose, their legal obligation, I had to have a place that I was able to go lie down in the workplace, which was great. Luckily, when I was about 39 weeks pregnant, we moved from Tipperary down to Cork, and we went to a much bigger hospital. The hospital that I was going to be in, there were 5 beds to a room, and the curtain really only covered the bed. I don't remember, I think there might have been like community space to put personal belongings. There was one shared bathroom in the hallway. There was absolutely no privacy. Now, the one in Cork, not that it was much better, but it was better. It was still a little bit bigger. During the pregnancy, they had the courses online. That's probably, the pregnancy online courses, they were online because I think over COVID they would have gone that direction and they probably just kept it, which was fine. I mean, you didn't meet anybody, but it was just, you could do it kind of just log in on your own time for one of them. The other one was a certain day and time that you did have a midwife coming to you live. I'm assuming it's what all of them cover. It's there were 2 classes on just your general health, what you should and shouldn't be eating, things about pregnancy, things about the birth and how to prepare for that. There was an additional class on breastfeeding, which was really nice. We were given multiple books that just covered everything to do with pregnancy, one about newborn, just trying out her new trick that she has. Luckily, I had a really, really good pregnancy. Almost too good, I would say, because she didn't want to come out. It wasn't until we tried absolutely everything. I tried all the tricks. I had gotten the sweep. I had gotten things with a chiropractor. All the things, bouncing on the ball every night. It just, everything. And she still came a week late. Now, they don't let you go over 10 days. So I actually at that point was scheduled to be induced at the 10-day mark. But I went into labor bang on my 41 weeks, and early the Saturday morning at about 5 a.m., I think it was. My labor hit like a train, and that was pretty stressful. So we pulled up. There's just kind of a temporary parking, and my husband ran in, got a wheelchair, brought me into just the waiting room, and luckily I was only in there probably a few minutes, and then they took me back to an intake room, really small. It was just a little bed and a monitor that they hooked me up to. Again, because my labor came on so suddenly, I was really nervous that things were progressing really fast. Little did I know. And so she checked me. I was only at like 1 or 2 centimeters. I mean, it was nothing. And I shouldn't say nothing. It was something, but it wasn't near to where it needed to be. And she gave me a muscle relaxant. I'm sure it helped. It didn't seem like it did, but I'm sure it did help. I was actually left on my own for a few minutes. I don't know. I don't know. You don't know what's going on at that point, but she left me for a few minutes. I was just banging around in there. I mean, I was going out of my mind, and my husband was down parking the car. So that was real fun. So I was in there for, it's hard to tell time at that point, but I was in there for, I'd say 15 minutes, maybe thereabouts. And then everybody came back in, and I was taken upstairs and got to see the room at that point. And it's four beds to a room. And I'll show a video. I mean, it was very small. Again, I don't know what to compare to. I've never been in a maternity hospital in the States, so I'm not sure what they normally look like. This was very small. So it had just the beds. That's right, you remember. It had just the bed, the little bassinet. It had a small cupboard where you could put a few things, a chair, and a small wheeling table. So you're just separated by curtains. And there were two. I'm sad I didn't get a video of the bathroom, but it was a decent sized bathroom. Two bathrooms in the room, with both of them had showers in them. And you had people that were, after they had their babies, before they had their babies. So you're kind of in with random people coming and going all hours of the night. I sadly, because I ended up being in there for a week, I sadly was not near the window. Wish I had a window one. I think, you just get whatever you get. And we couldn't afford a private room. So we were in just as commoners. So I was taken in there. Again, later to come find out, the curtains where I was, unfortunately, so I was when you came in, you came into the room past the two bathrooms, one on each side. And then there were two beds on each side. And I was one of the first beds. And unfortunately, that meant anybody who was going to the two far bedrooms, let's call them the two far bed spaces, were going to be passing by my area. And these curtains would not stay shut. They would not stay shut. And they were, on both sides. And people were just constantly poking their heads in for this, that, and the other. Things being brought to you, people coming in to visit, all this stuff. And I was spending the whole time just getting up, trying to close these curtains. Eventually you just give up. I had it wedged against the wall with the chair at one point, just on the one. So it was like even just one side to have a little bit of privacy. And no, that, somebody came along, poked their head in. They didn't realize, nobody realizes. And they just don't think to make sure that it's closed all the way. And so you just see everybody passing, and everybody can see you. And so that was challenging. Of course, you can just hear everything. There's no sound barrier to curtains, as we know. So anyway, so I was taken in there. Really sweet midwife. I think her name was Hannah. She came in. She introduced herself. Said she would be looking after me. I was actually very quickly, and I was surprised, I was very quickly admitted into the delivery room. Same thing. It was so out of my mind, I didn't get a video of the delivery room. Seemed like pretty standard, probably just a bit smaller than what I've seen them to be in the States. The midwife that was working with me, I had never met her before, and she had a student with her. They were both very nice. The strangest part, I thought, because I assumed that you would be given some kind of gown to go on to, be in labor with. Literally gave birth in the pajamas that I came in, which were like this oversized t-shirt thing. And so I wore that the whole time. Nobody had me change out of it. It was, I don't know, maybe that's normal. I don't know. I was so happy because I had really bad pains, and they were coming very frequently. And I was given, it wasn't long before they said they would give me the epidural, which was so wonderful. And I had gas and air as well. The epidural did nothing. Again, maybe it did something. Maybe it's like the shot. It did something, and it just seemed like it didn't. It absolutely from what I could tell, made no change. The woman kept coming in and saying, kind of checking on me, and she kept she kept trying to up the dosage. Never did anything. She she told me, she's like, oh well, it it won't do anything for the pressure. I was like, pressure? Is that what we're calling this? Pressure? Oh my good. She wasn't being mean or anything, but it was like, no, this isn't pressure that we're feeling. So anyway, but it was all very bizarre. I wasn't feeling any pains in my stomach. It was all in my hips. I could feel, it was a very bizarre feeling of just that whole midsection just being torn to shreds is what it felt like. And the epidural didn't do anything. And every couple of minutes that would come along. And the gas and air, I felt like wasn't doing anything. My husband swears that I was so much better on it. It really just made me feel loopy, but I've still felt everything. So, yeah, it was something. My water didn't break. They had to break it for me. And around 12 hours into it, they had me pushing. So they were good about, rotating me from my back to one side to my back to the other side. And kind of, I think every time I pushed, I moved. I think they moved me, or every couple times that I pushed. So they were good to keep me rotating like rotisserie chicken. That was something I had talked to my midwife that was in part of my birth plan. So I was happy they did that. An hour later, the doctor came in and was checking things out. I'm thinking, like, this is it. Things are finally happening. Again, the whole time this pain was coming, ironically, it didn't come while I was pushing. It actually went away. We actually gave relief to push. The doctor, again, somebody I'd never met before. He was a nice guy. She's getting a bit antsy. He tried whatever few things, and then it was explained to me that she just wasn't progressing. So they were going to take me into the surgery room, and they were going to try with those salad tong things, whatever they call them, the forceps. And if that wasn't going to work, that I was going to have to go into surgery. So I was wheeled into, this part is kind of a blur, I'm not going to lie, from the being transferred. I think they must have just taken my bed down and then just rolled me onto the surgery bed is what must have happened. And my husband wasn't in there, which was weird, but everyone else was in there. Everyone and their mom was in there. It was 100 people in that room. All kind of running around. I was so out of it at this point. I'm still experiencing those really intense pains. Another doctor was in there, and she was explaining to me what was going on. And at one point, she was like, are you with me? I was so doped on that, the gas and air, that I had been breathing in for the last 13, 14 hours at this point. So I was just really loopy. It wasn't, but I was aware, but I was very loopy. So that was kind of funny. I mean, I must have been pretty out of it. You're just so, it's just, everything's not going the way I thought it was going to go. And so I'm I don't know what's going on at this point. Again, my husband's not even in the room. She's trying to explain to me, and she tried really hard to make me understand. Maybe I just don't remember. I remember talking to her. I don't remember what she was saying. Again, I think it was just, this is what we're going to try. So they did try for a few minutes with the forceps. That was weird. I could feel that. I could feel the tugging. Not that it was painful. I could just tell that something was trying to be pulled out of me. So they tried for a few minutes with that, and then they said, okay, we're just gonna do the surgery. So again, a million people are in there. They're all kind of scattering around. My husband eventually shows up. He's in, his gown. I had to sit up to get the numbing done, and I was really concerned because obviously the epidural didn't do anything for me. So, you're not in your right mind. You're just you're thinking, okay, is this not going to numb me? Because the other one didn't. So I was pretty nervous about that, but it didn't take long, and luckily, finally, the pain had stopped. Finally, I remember at one point they had said to me, for some reason they gave me the option, to my understanding, or they said if it didn't work, that they were going to knock me out completely, and I was like, just do that. Let's do that. That sounds great. Knock me out. And, a few women were there. And then, no, 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 no. You don't want that. You don't want that. We're not trying to get you to do that. And I'm glad they didn't, obviously. But at the time, I mean, I was so just wanting to be gone and it to be over with. I do remember my teeth clenching really bad. Just clenching, kind of releasing, clenching really bad. I honestly thought I was going to break a tooth. So that was going on. That's kind of all I could really think about, is just that I didn't feel anything else. But the kind of cool thing is it was doing this really intense clenching, and that only stopped when they brought her around to me, which was kind of cool. So the way maybe I had seen it in movies or something is, I feel like they show the baby to you. I feel like you are in surgery and they kind of like hold the baby over the curtain so you can see your baby for the first time. I was somebody to the side of me, a nurse or something, and she said, "Oh, the baby's out," and she wasn't crying or anything. Maybe because there was other stuff going on, they were concerned about her. Maybe that's why. Maybe they pulled her out and immediately just had to work on her for something. But that was kind of, again, things not going the way I thought they were going to go. I was looking forward to the moment I was going to have the baby naturally, and she was going to be handed up to me and put on my chest right away, and it was going to be delayed clamping. It was going to be chest to chest. What do they call that? That's not what they call it, is it? Whatever it's called. It's called skin to skin. Something like that. Skin to skin? Is that what it's called? Yeah. Skin to skin, I think. So I was going to do that. I was really looking forward to seeing my husband hold her for the first time, and I thought that was going to be really magical. Of course, the fact that she came, she was healthy, I was healthy, everybody was okay. That was the main thing. But everything was going just so much differently than I thought. And so yeah, she wasn't crying. I didn't hear her. Somebody just ran over, asked if I was okay with them giving the vitamin K shot. This part, there's a picture that they took, and they showed me a picture of her, which is just, it's really bizarre. And I understand that because it was a good while before she came over to me. It was a good few minutes. It was 20 minutes, half an hour is what it felt like. Maybe not even that long, but it was a long time. So I'm just laying there, teeth chattering, and baby's out, and I don't see her. And so they bring over a picture, and it was kind of it's very bizarre. And I still obviously have that picture, and it's kind of this, like, sometimes it can be kind of hard to look at because there's such like this little disconnect. It's very odd. Not that I'm upset that they did it, because I know they did it trying to do a nice thing, but it was different, much different than I expected. They came over and they asked if my husband and I wanted to see her for the first time together, which is kind of weird because I said yes to it, and then they said, "Oh, but it's going to take a while." So I don't know why then they said, "No, don't do it that way." If they asked me if they want, I don't know. And so he went over and got to meet her long before I did. But then they did eventually bring her over to me, and she was so perfect, and she was just so adorable and tiny. So they were good. They did bring her over to me, and the woman was very nice, and she was, making sure that I was close to her and could kiss her and all this stuff. Like I said, that's when my teeth clenching stopped. So that was cool. And then she was taken down to NICU. They it was my husband that told me, and I was kind of kept in the dark of why she was down there, probably just to not worry me. But she had a high temperature and a high heart rate, so they took her down there to keep an eye on her. And I was taken into a recovery room. It did take a little while to stitch me up. Once I was in the recovery room, it was kind of just like, oh my gosh, it's finally over. Like you can't even wrap your head around it. It was 14 hours of labor. So I'd gone in at 5 in the morning, and at 7 in the evening she was born. So it was past 7 at this point. I will say too, what actually kind of helped is as they were stitching me up, I could hear them just chatting and laughing, and that actually really helped. It really helped. They weren't doing that for me. They weren't thinking anything of it. But it really helped just lighten the mood a bit, I suppose. It's such a stressful day, and to have to go into surgery. My husband and I mistakenly had spoken so much about how much we didn't want it to go to cesarean, how much we didn't want it to have to go there. And I realized now we shouldn't have said that, because then it was so much more stressful when it happened. Instead of saying to ourselves, like, yeah, we prefer it not to. If it does, it's okay. Disney baby. I was in the recovery room for a good few minutes. I think was at that point, maybe it was after I got taken down to the room. I was given painkillers. I was given some toast. I was down there. They think they were just monitoring me before taking me to the room. They said that I had a temperature and an infection. So I was immediately put on a drip that I went on every 6 hours, six to 8 hours or so. And here's another one that's probably a lot different with here in Ireland, is that, again, because it's a shared room and everything, there's nowhere for your partner to stay. So once I was out of the recovery room, I was taken back to the room by myself. No baby, no husband, by myself. And it was really quite hard. You just had gone through, 14 hours of the most excruciating time of your life. Everything's gone so differently. I've seen my baby for all of 60 seconds. She's taken away. I've carried her, she's been with me for 41 weeks. And to not even have my husband there. So I think they just expect that you're so exhausted, you just fall asleep. I didn't sleep a wink. I mean, it was actually really hard. So first thing in the morning, the first he could come was at 7. So at 7 in the morning, he came straight down and took me down to see her in the NICU. So I was able to hold her then. And she was in there. That's the next traumatizing thing. Then I never thought about that. That your baby that is used to hearing your heartbeat, and she's just warm inside of you and just, has the sound of your voice, is then kind of ripped out of you and then taken and put in this box, this NICU box. Oh my gosh. I was so traumatized by the whole thing, just emotionally, even though it's like so grateful for modern medicine. There's parts of it that are like, oh, it's still hard at the same time. Then when we came back upstairs, they had the breakfast. I think I actually wasn't allowed to choose my breakfast. I think I still had to have just toast or something. But, they would have a menu over the next, for a few days in advance. I have to say, they actually had phenomenal meals in there. It was really sweet. The midwife that was with me the day before, she came up and gave me a hug and told me congratulations. The doctor came up to check on me, and she just went over again. She said, I just want to make sure that you understand, like, why we had to do that again. I can't remember why. I think she just wasn't progressing. So she said that when they opened me up, they were like, we didn't even have to take her out of your birth canal. We just plucked her right out of there. So all of that, for whatever reason, she just wasn't, everything was kind of, what happened there? I don't know. That, labor pains were very bizarre. She didn't progress at all. I did make it to 10 centimeters, which is why they had me pushing. Didn't budge. So I don't know what happened. So the next morning I realized the noise It was so loud. There were so many people coming and going, and just, doctors, the midwives, babies, partners, specialists coming in and out, food deliveries, things being collected, guests coming in and out. Of course, there were just specific visiting hours. I think it was 2 hours in the evening. But it was so loud. Again, I should have taken a video of this. You just don't think about this kind of stuff when you're in there. And one of the lady, my neighbor, she was in labor, and my gosh, you could hear everything. And having just gone through that yourself, it's kind of, again, traumatizing a little bit to just hear somebody else going through it right next door to you. And I mean, it was very dramatic. And she was, they were trying to take her out and like, do we need a wheelchair? Do we have time? And she's like running into the bathroom, and there's all this commotion and all this stuff. And you could just you heard the whole thing progressing, and it was just, whoa. Again, is that normal in the States? Do they do that in the States? I don't know. And there was kind of every kind of different person in there at every different stage. So there were people, I think, that were there just to be, one lady, she was there and nothing happened. I think she was maybe just there to be monitored. People were there, and during the nights, and they would have their babies with them. There'd be babies crying in the night. And so I did not get much sleep. And this was in August, sweltering hot at night. Again, I wish I was at the window where I could have opened it. Should have gone over to her and been like, do you mind opening that? So didn't sleep a wink. Didn't think to bring a fan in. I'm sure I would have been allowed. I've got to wrap this up. This is getting late. It's getting ridiculous. So it was a very, everyone there was so sweet. We had this really fantastic student nurse that was there, and she took a real particular interest, I felt, in myself and my baby and my husband, and it just made all the difference. We would have been lost without her. It was challenging, and it was a hard, I think if I was maybe in my own room, maybe things would have been a little bit easier. I know one of the nights when she was finally, after she was brought up from the NICU up to me, and one of the nurses, because I had to, they'd be coming in and out through the night, and one of the midwives, she had come in, and I was just silently just sobbing. I was just in the chair in the corner, just holding her, just crying, just really just kind of processing everything, and just really acknowledging, everything happened so fast. Everything was so much different than I thought it was going to go. And so one night was just like, you know what, I'm going to really process each thing and permit myself to be sad about it, and tell myself, okay, that was hard. So I went through each thing. It was like, how fast it came on, that was hard. How she wasn't progressing, that was hard. How the epidural didn't work, that was hard. That she was down in the NICU, ooh, that was hard. So all these things. And so I was there, and I was just crying. And the nurse, she came in, maybe she heard me, but oh my gosh, are you okay? And she was really sweet about it. And the next morning I got a visit from a mental health specialist, so came in to check on me. I'd say she was, in the morning report that was handed over, and she was sent up to me to check on me. So that was nice, that they were looking out for me. But finally came the time that she was able to come home. That was Thursday evening. So we had been in there from Saturday morning to Thursday evening. She had spent one night in the nursery, and the only thing, all these things that we had gotten, and the only thing we had to pay for was parking, which I think was maybe like 14 euro a day or something. I was so anxious to go home. They couldn't release me until my blood pressure had lowered, which ironically I felt like being in there was causing it so high. And I kept saying, I need to get out of here. It's too loud. There's too much commotion. I'm not sleeping. I'm stressed out of my mind. My husband's gone at night, and and they were just like, you can't, you're really not allowed. But they just said it was like so not advised. And I mean, it just would not go under where it needed to, but finally it did. And it still took, even with them saying that they would release me, it took a long time before, hours and hours later, that we were able to go. They did have to check her car seat. They had to see her in the car seat, so had to bring that up, and they had to check her in it and make sure. Apparently you are told you can't leave unless your baby's in a car seat that they permit you to be in. Again, is that a thing in the States? I don't know. Then they have something called a public health nurse here, and I would have gotten a few checkups with her. She would have called out to the house and checked on her, checked her weight, kind of checked her progression, checked his her eye movements, checking all these things. And it was really sweet at the end of the first one, which was, I think, her 2-week check. And the lady, she was like, "Can I do anything for you? Do you need me to make you a sandwich? So do you need me to hold her while you take a shower?" So that was really sweet. The other nice thing is they had breastfeeding specialists. I don't know if that's what you'd call them, but I got a few visits from them, where they were helpful. The ladies were very nice, but it was all very like, do it this way, perfection. And, you find your own way of doing things. I found the way they were having me do things were not quite working for me. And so you get a little frustrated. It's not quite going the way you're wanting it to go. But I certainly appreciate that they were there. And then there's a group that meets with one of the specialists in the kind of next town over. And they would meet once a month. There would be a texting group. So a really nice support system for people who are breastfeeding. So really, that's my story. Again, I would love to know how it compares. If people find some things a bit odd, maybe people could comment and say, like, actually, that's totally normal. That's worldwide. I don't know what you're talking about. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.